This video is my response to allegations made by my ex-girlfriend Alice Hez, who I was in a relationship with for the majority of 2023. Alice hit me, kicked me, emotionally, verbally and physically abused me, as well as threatened me and blackmailed me constantly throughout our relationship. Alice has continued to harass me by posting false information about me, as well as fabricating stories about our relationship online to this day. All of this will be covered in detail in this video, and for full clarity I will be reading from a document that I have written to make sure that this is treated with the seriousness that it deserves. Since our relationship ended, Alice has lied continuously for the last 12 months that I was under a police investigation, to friends, ex-girlfriends and YouTube commentary channels. Alice has continued to make false allegations about me to this day, and said that she had pressed charges against me in a comment on TikTok. This is a lie, as at no point have I been interviewed, arrested or charged with a crime, but Alice continues to slander me publicly with these lies. Alice said that future partners can check Clares Law, and later claimed she had got me put down in the system so that any future partners who know how Clares Law works can use this information to stay safe from me. The information that is accessible through Clares Law would be a criminal record, also known as a criminal history. All of this information is available on the Clares Law website, which I will link in the description. Alice has said that Clares Law can be used and that I am in the system, alleging that I am a convicted criminal or that I have a criminal record. Alice also says in the same messages that the police didn't do anything at all. These statements completely contradict each other, as it would not be possible for the police to have done nothing, and for the police to have put me on the system as a convicted criminal or as someone with a criminal record. Alice's story continues to make no sense, as Alice later said that I was charged by police, but this would not be possible if the police never did anything at all. Alice claims she had achieved her goal of getting me put on a list accessible via Clares Law, and that she had saved people because of this. None of the statements made about the police investigation make any sense, as Alice claims she had put me on a list that would require me having a criminal record and a caution from the police, but also says the police didn't do anything at all. This is because Alice is and always was lying. I would like to make it incredibly clear. I have never been contacted, approached or interviewed by police at any point in my life, and I do not have a record or any cautions. Claiming that I am a convicted criminal or have a criminal history is the first of many lies that will be covered in this video. There has at no point ever been a police investigation, but Alice has continuously lied to hide the truth about what really happened in our relationship and solidify the false narrative that she has built about me over the last year. Alice wrote all of these messages and posted the document knowing that the police investigation was a lie, as it would not be possible for Alice to share any information if this was at any point an ongoing case. A YouTube commentary channel called Samuel said that she had been dealing with the police instead of immediately taking it to social media when he spoke to Alice.
I just thought I'd come in to say that I've spoke to Alice, the ex of Alex, and I've also spoke to ImAllexx. Now, Alice is dealing with this with the police as well. Has got the police involved. So instead of just immediately taking it to social media and speaking about it, has also got the police involved beforehand. And is dealing with it that way. She's going to the police about that, trying to get the situation sorted properly before she speaks about it online. Which is definitely a change. Usually people just immediately come online to speak about stuff and air it all out before going to the police.
This is a lie, as Alice had already posted months before she had released the document that I was on Clares Law in a comment on TikTok in April 2024. This would mean the police investigation had already finished and that I would have a criminal record 3 months after we had broken up, which would be impossible. Alice had also posted a video in April saying that she wanted to save the next girl that I would date. This clip is from a stream 2 months after Alice had posted videos and comments about me. Samuel says Alice does not want to come out and talk about this until after the police investigation had taken place, which was a lie. This is not how anything is unfolded publicly at all. Alice has been posting about me constantly and also released an entire document about me after lying that I was on Clares Law. She did not wait for a police investigation because she knew there wasn't one, and Alice later admitted that this was the case and that the police didn't do anything. At one point, Alice claimed I hadn't responded as she speculated that the police had contacted me, and that was why I hadn't replied. Alice was upset this message had been leaked in a YouTube video, as she hadn't intended for it to be posted publicly, as it would be incredibly clear that she was lying about the police investigating me to the point where she was actively speculating and telling lies when questioned about it. At this time, Alice reached out to my ex-girlfriends privately and asked my ex-girlfriend Jess to plan a statement to back up hers, lying about the involvement of the police to convince people that her story was the truth. Alice has continued to post about me and harass me to this day, despite stating in her document that she was going to move on with her life after it was released in June. Since Alice's document, she went on to post many things on Twitter, TikTok, and in statements that contradict her story. One of the contradictions made was in a series of tweets Alice posted asking for YouTubers to reach out to her so she can do interviews for their videos on the false police investigation after her document was posted. Alice did multiple interviews where she has lied about me having a criminal record via Clares Law and being under investigation by police. She continued doing this for months, and these lies have been shared in many videos. Alice said that she can give updates and that people should message her directly, even though in these messages Alice said that she hadn't received any updates or heard anything from police at all. She told YouTubers she couldn't share information until everything with the false police investigation had finished.
And Alice as well, speaking to her, she does want to come out and speak about this. Eventually after all the police stuff, and just wants to be able to get all the information. She's got proof as well, and she wants to be able to get all that out there once she's spoken to the police properly.
This story at no point has made any sense, as Alice says that she would only post about this after the police investigation had finished, but then continued to say that the police were involved months after she had posted her document, which once again shows that Alice was lying the entire time. Alice claims she can provide updates to YouTubers in this tweet, but made an excuse to people she was arguing with on Twitter that the reason she couldn't provide updates to them was because of the fact that there was a police investigation and that she wasn't allowed to share anything until it was finished, and that now it had finally finished, she could share more information again. This makes no sense, as Alice had already shared an entire document about me and was then asking people if she could continue to share more information about me in interviews on her Twitter that were then posted onto YouTube. Alice wrote right at the end of her document that for legal and obvious reasons, she wouldn't attach all the evidence she has, but in due time, it may be made public. Not only is this not how police investigations work, but Alice has not posted more evidence since, despite saying the supposed investigation had now ended. This is because there never was an investigation, as it was a lie. It would not have been possible for Alice to share anything at all by her own admission if there actually ever was a police investigation in place. Alice has continuously lied and claimed that this was the only thing stopping her from releasing information, and she acknowledged this herself in this tweet and when speaking to YouTubers. The reality is, there never was a police investigation, which Alice later admitted to. This is why Alice decided to publicise a heavily edited version of events to damage my reputation with false stories and lies like alleging I'm a convicted criminal with a criminal record. I have taken my time gathering information and evidence as Alice has continued to lie about me and the abuse she put me through during our relationship, whilst blackmailing me and threatening me. Alice has created a one-sided narrative that does not show the reality of what had happened during our relationship. Due to Alice's constant posting about me and my own personal issues, my response has been delayed many times, and all of this will be covered throughout this video. When Alice's story was questioned by people on Twitter, she responded with threats to leak my phone number whilst also insulting me and anyone who pointed out these inconsistencies in her document. Alice would then block these people after arguing and insulting them for replying to her posts as they were highlighting many of the inconsistencies and lies that Alice had made. Alice changed her Google document multiple times to hide these criticisms and has cropped messages that showed her using the same racial slurs that she had accused me of bringing into our relationship, as it directly contradicted her story. This was unacceptable behaviour, and I deeply regret using such horrific language, and this will be further addressed in this video. Alice has erased any evidence that these events had taken place or that she had been at any point abusive physically, verbally, or emotionally towards me, and this proceeds throughout her entire document, which has since been edited multiple times, which was pointed out by a user on Twitter. Alice's entire story has been built on lies, and in this video I will be showing screenshot evidence that directly refutes the claims that she has made against me, as Alice intentionally left out hundreds of text conversations that would disprove her stories and false narrative that she has created. Instead, it would show that Alice had been abusing me for our entire relationship, and that she has not stopped harassing me for the last year. Alice has made tweets stating that I do not have any trauma from our relationship together, and that she never hit me. These statements are untrue, and in fact Alice admits to slapping me and pushing me in another in her own document. Alice had also been kicking me, which she admitted to me on Facebook Messenger after she had lied that I was on Clares Law. And all of this will be covered separately throughout this video. Alice has done all of this despite claiming she was never physically abusive at any point in our relationship, which is a lie, as Alice was physically abusing me regularly, which she has hidden and now lied about publicly. Alice also posted a series of tweets in an argument on Twitter, stating that I do not have BPD also known as borderline personality disorder. Alice has even gone as far as diagnosing me as a narcissist in her document, and she claimed that she is an empath. I was diagnosed by my psychiatrist with what they believe to be emotionally unstable personality disorder, also known as borderline personality disorder. I was then referred to my local community mental health team after the diagnosis from my psychiatrist. To claim that I haven't been diagnosed with BPD is untrue. Alice has made multiple tweets spreading false information about my medical history, whilst continuing to lie during these arguments she has online regarding me. Alice replied to a tweet which she believed was about me, where she denied that I have BPD, as she thought the original tweet was in defense of me. When it was pointed out the tweets were not about me, and that they were about another YouTuber, Alice tried to justify her ongoing posts lying about me as simply sharing information, even though nobody had asked, and she had said she wasn't going to post about me after the document was released due to the police investigation that she had lied about. Alice has continued to try and remain in control of the narrative surrounding me and my life for the last 12 months by spreading many lies, including this one. Alice has opened her document by saying that I will make a contradicting response to the allegations that she has made against me, and that after posting her statement she can move on with her life. But this was a lie, as Alice has continued to post about me many times online to this day, as I have shown and will show throughout this video. Alice claimed that I threatened her not to come forward with her story, and repeats this when talking with YouTube commentary channels. Alice shows no proof of this, and that is because this is the exact opposite, as Alice had been threatening and blackmailing me throughout our relationship and months after it had ended. I had told my friends that Alice had been hitting me. Alice denied this on text when she found out and threatened to sue me if I continued to tell people she had been hitting me throughout our relationship. Alice says that my story will contradict hers, and that is because Alice knows that our relationship is not how she has portrayed it online. Alice has lied constantly, and I can prove this with the text evidence that she is intentionally not included, as it contradicts her own story. Alice says we had a huge fight where I dragged her, covered her mouth and put her in a headlock, and that this happened on the 19th of October, a few days after we had moved in with each other. There are no texts from this time that even suggest that we were fighting or had been in a fight, and that's because this did not happen. On the 19th of October, Alice asked me to call, and the next text message was Alice asking me to sort out my bike in the garage. Later that same day, Alice asked me what's happening, and I tell her the cat had shut me in the cupboard because I was fixing our heating, and then that night we texted about packages arriving the next day. At 1 past midnight, Alice tells me she had made me pizza, and then on the 20th of October, Alice asked me what I want from the shop, and then we go on to talk about buying Pokemon cards. To claim we had a huge fight where I'd physically assaulted Alice is a lie. I never did these things Alice has accused me of doing, because this never happened. Alice has texted her mum and used this as proof that this event had taken place after screenshotting the text in real time, as the messages display the words today instead of the date that they were taken. Alice knew she would be using them in her document, and that she had been planning this full story about me. Alice has used these texts to make it seem like I had physically assaulted her, when this never happened. This isn't the only time Alice has used similar proof to claim something had happened which had never taken place at all, and she does this many times in her document. Alice provided a list of events that she had written herself directly into her notes app as evidence, and has attached them to her document as proof. But Alice was still writing these stories after she had said that she had moved out, which shows that these were written at a later date retroactively for this document. Anyone could have written down anything on any date and claimed that it was true. Writing down words into a notes app can be done at any time, and is in no way, shape or form proof that something happened. The texts between us from that time reflect a totally different story that Alice has not included in her document, even though she provided an exact date of the day this had apparently taken place. Instead, Alice has fabricated a story entirely, and has accused me of being physically abusive to hide the fact that she had been slapping, punching and kicking me throughout our relationship, something that she had tried to hide from her document and has lied about on Twitter publicly. At no point has this story ever been consistent, as Alice said that this happened on the 4th day that we moved in with each other in her document and in her notes app, but then it texted me that it happened on the 2nd. And to be clear, the text messages from the 17th of October also show that this was not the case. Alice started to accuse me of being physically abusive with her after I had asked her multiple times to stop her constant physical attacks on me. Because these continued, I had asked to break up. The first time Alice ever mentioned that this assault had apparently happened was when we were in an argument on the day we broke up, and I had told her to leave the house. Alice accused me of grabbing her and said she could prove that this had happened because she had written down the date in her notes app, and then started to blackmail me and threaten me that she would go to the police and start calling me an abuser. I denied this ever happening, and explained how it disturbed me that Alice was trying to gaslight me into believing that this had taken place. I had asked Alice not to come back to the house and that I would leave her stuff in the garage because I wanted to break up and I didn't want her near me anymore, as she had been assaulting me and threatening me since we had started dating. When Alice had left the house, I finally thought I could escape our relationship and that I wouldn't have to see her again. This is when Alice began to start blackmailing me and threatening me because I was asking her to stay away. Alice told me that she was going to come back and that she was only gone for a night. When I told Alice I didn't want her to come back, she accused me of physically abusing her. Alice then threatened to report this lie to the police to stop me from trying to leave our relationship. I knew that now, if I tried to leave, Alice would accuse me of physically abusing her, as she had used this to get me to back down from trying to end our relationship in this conversation. The false accusations and police threats were the final straw. I did not want to be blackmailed again into staying in our relationship. Alice continued to insist that I had assaulted her in our argument over text, but as I have shown, we were completely fine on the 19th of October because this fight never took place. Alice has created this story because she had been threatening me throughout our entire relationship with ruining my life and career, and she knew she could bully me into submission and control me with these accusations and threats. Alice had told me that she had recorded me during my manic episodes and when I had reacted to the constant threats and physical attacks in our relationship. Alice would threaten to post these videos when I tried to leave and when we argued. I felt that I had no choice but to stay when Alice threatened me. Alice has carefully selected these screenshots to hide me denying the physical abuse and to paint a completely different story, which is untrue. In the full thread that Alice hasn't shown, I told Alice that I'd only tried to hug her, as I was not talking about grabbing Alice at all at any point in the conversation that she has tried to misrepresent. And when we discussed this at a later date, Alice says that I had hugged her and that I had walked away to avoid us fighting, which is not what she has tried to portray in her document at all. In one argument, Alice accused me of dragging her again, to which I sent her a voice message where I told her that it didn't happen.
I'm so confused here, Alice. Like, this morning, I was just trying to talk to you normally. I tried to call you, tried to have a normal conversation, and you escalate it to this. I don't understand. Like, why this? Why does it have to be this? Why couldn't you just let me talk to you, like, have just a normal conversation today? Why did you, like, do you want it to be this? I don't want to fight you. I don't want to have fights with you. I don't want to have angry text messages with you. And I also don't want to be accused of doing stuff that I haven't done.
Alice then mocked me because I brought up her slapping me. Alice texted me in response saying, "You're mad if you want to say I'd slap you," even though Alice has now admitted she slapped me in the document that she posted. In these texts, I said that Alice pushed me away and gave me shit 24/7, to the point where I didn't want to sleep in the same bed as her. At this point, we were sending messages at the exact same time. This makes it look like we were responding to each other, but we were sending these messages simultaneously, as shown in these screenshots. When I said that Alice can't go around screaming in our house, it was because it was attached to the message where I was explaining why I had started to sleep downstairs because she would punch, kick, and scream at me, so I had been forced to sleep on the sofa. Because we lived in a rented house, I didn't want to be evicted because of the constant arguments and screaming when I would sleep upstairs. Alice has cropped these messages intentionally to hide the entire context of this conversation. Alice has not only not shown these texts from when this apparent fight took place, but has now cut around messages to portray a story which is untrue. Alice hit me many times throughout our relationship, and this happened consistently from the moment that we started dating. Alice would use physical violence when I refused to do as she had asked, and this is something she admitted to in a conversation on Facebook Messenger. When I brought up that she had been assaulting me throughout our relationship, Alice responded by saying that any girl would have done the same. Alice also went on to send me a message where she said that her kicking me was probably uncalled for. I messaged Alice about her assaulting me on Facebook after she had posted TikToks calling me an abuser and lied that I was on Clares Law and under a police investigation. I questioned why Alice was doing this when she had been physically assaulting me throughout our relationship. I told her because of this, I would have to defend myself because of the accusations she had posted publicly. This is when Alice threatened to sue me for suggesting that she had slapped me, which she later admitted to in her document. I messaged Alice about the time she had kicked me, which had led to me sleeping on the sofa and staying away from her to stop her from assaulting me. I retold this story on messages, and Alice replied saying she didn't just start kicking me randomly for no reason. Alice admits in these messages that she was kicking me because I had refused to put my shirt on, which is her reason for assaulting me. Alice responded with, "Yeah, that's pretty stupid," in response to me refusing to put my shirt on. This is because I had a skin condition that Alice was aware of. I said it was stupid at the time because I regretted not just doing as Alice had asked, as it would have avoided her assaulting me, and we wouldn't have ended up arguing. We had also texted about this exact situation. I told Alice I didn't want to upset her as she was angry that I no longer would share a bed with her anymore because she had been kicking me and calling me fat because I had told her that I couldn't sleep with a shirt on because of my illness. I have had a skin condition since 2021 that was brought on by stress. This skin condition would cause me to have full body itching episodes when I was touched, pushed or hit, and it made it very hard for me to sleep. I was told by my doctor to try and avoid stressful situations and to stay dry and avoid warmth as it was seemingly making it worse. This is why I would sleep with no shirt on. When we first started dating, it was minimal, around the stomach area, but a few months into our relationship, it had spread to my entire body. Throughout my time with Alice, it got worse, and the stress of our relationship and other issues I was having at the time were having a huge effect on me, and Alice was aware of this. Originally, she seemed supportive, but it quickly became something that she would use to hurt me. Alice started by calling me fat in text and in person, and this was because she wanted me to keep my shirt on because she did not like my illness and she didn't want to see it or be around it. We were in bed together and Alice told me when I took my shirt off that if I was going to do that, then she wanted me to sleep downstairs. I told Alice I wasn't going to do that because I wanted to sleep in our bed that night, and she had complained that I spent too much time away from her. This angered Alice and she called me names. I ignored her and turned away so I could go to sleep. Alice turned around in bed and kicked me in my lower back, and I told her to fuck off. And then she kicked me even harder and then started to donkey kick me in my neck and in the back of my head. Alice had done this so hard that I fell out of the bed while she was still kicking me. I proceeded to get incredibly angry and I shouted at Alice and I insulted her, and this is something that I deeply regret doing. When I messaged Alice about this on Facebook, she said that she didn't just start kicking me hard. The argument had got worse and we both started insulting each other. Alice then pushed me and tried to hit me. This is when I grabbed Alice by the arms and I pulled her to the floor. This is the only time that I tried to defend myself after Alice had tried to attack me after kicking me in the back of the head. Alice says in the messages that she didn't do it for no reason, as she believed that because I had refused to sleep downstairs without my shirt on, that made it acceptable to kick me because I had refused to do what Alice had asked. Alice has also written in her document that I had accused her of hitting me when we were in bed because I was talking to our cat, and Alice has put this story last in her document. Alice says that this story about the cat is a lie and that it didn't happen, and wrote this. At this point, he's trying to use a situation with that cat and manipulate the story. I can show what really happened here. Alice has shown 5 screenshots of this conversation and has portrayed it as the whole story. Alice does not show the hundreds of texts where she admits to getting physical and trying to hurt me whilst also downplaying the seriousness of her physical attacks on me whilst justifying them. This was purposely hidden as it would show that Alice was physically abusing me, which is why she shows this screenshot and has cut off the first part of the conversation where I had asked Alice why she had tried to hit me, in which she belittles and insults me for suggesting that she had assaulted me, even though she admits to getting physical in the text that she did not show. Alice then went on to write this. I had told him to stop saying weird things to the cat, he was joking about taking him away, and why would I let someone who told me they'd break my cat's neck near my cat? This was an argument around mine, so there is no texts. This is not true at all, and not how this took place, which will be shown in these text messages. For context before I read them, me and Alice were in bed together when our cat Bear entered the room, jumped onto the bed and sat on my chest. I began talking to the cat in a silly voice and Alice was laughing with me. I was jokingly saying I was going to eat him if he got any closer, and it was very apparent that I did not mean this literally and that I was in fact joking, as we had done together throughout our relationship. Alice even acknowledges that I was joking in her document at the time. Alice said this in her document. He then goes on to say I have punched him in the face over the cat. This is Delulu Island we're on now, because he's trying to grab onto anything he can to create his story. This didn't happen, and I couldn't tell you where he cooked this up from. This is from an argument where he was being horrible, had the cat in his arms, and came up to me making jokes about taking him away. Alex was in my face all over me doing this, so I pushed him off of me. I got this story from our own texts that Alice has left out of her document. It is not something that I had cooked up, and I am not creating my own story, as there were hundreds of texts of me complaining when it happened that Alice doesn't show, which I will read for full clarity. Alice admits that I was making jokes in her document, but then says I was being horrible, which is untrue and completely contradictory to what Alice had written, where she fully admits that I was joking at the time. Alice calls me delusional and says I'm on Delulu Island for thinking that Alice had physically assaulted me for joking about the cat, but has written in her own document that she did push me and that it was because of me making these jokes about the cat. Alice texted me saying she hadn't hit me and this was after I'd accused her of punching me in our bedroom in person, and then I had walked away. Before I left, I asked Alice to pack her things and leave, as I was not comfortable with being hit in our relationship, and this was not the first time that Alice had hit me. At first, Alice completely denied even trying to hit me at all, and then responded with her reason for why she had got physical with me, as it was due to me saying I was going to take the cat away as a joke. I was incredibly thrown off by this, as it was minutes after Alice had assaulted me. Alice began to gaslight me over text and tried to get me to think that this had never happened and that I was overreacting. Alice didn't apologise for getting physical, but instead doubled down on why she'd assaulted me. Alice hadn't told me she didn't like the way I was joking around before she assaulted me. We were in bed laughing, so I thought it was fine and just a normal interaction. Alice calls me mental and mocks me with laughing crying emojis for trying to discuss why she had assaulted me. I made it clear in the text that I did not push Alice or get physical when I was upset with her, and that I was tired of her doing this to me, to which Alice responded by agreeing and saying yeah after you've been a bellend. Alice ignores her assaulting me as the reason this argument has started and has cut it out of her document to make it seem like I was being horrible and that she had reacted to me, and not that she had hit me and insulted me, to which I responded by asking her to leave the house and leaving the room. This is why Alice at no point is specific about what I said that was actually horrible. She just references the joke I made about taking the cat away. This is because I wasn't being horrible, and Alice is misrepresenting the situation intentionally by hiding these texts that showed what really took place. Alice again acknowledges in texts that I was joking, and that I was not being serious at any point, and that she was aware of this the entire time this argument was taking place. This contradicts what Alice has said in her document, where she claims that I was being horrible, as Alice knew the whole time I was joking, as shown by these messages, minutes after the actual event had happened. I told Alice I didn't like her getting physical with me, as it would happen a lot, and I was often ignored when I tried to talk about it. When I would ask why, Alice would stonewall me, or would tell me that I was overreacting when I complained about things becoming physical. Alice would not talk to me or tell me she was getting upset before she resorted to physically assaulting me. Alice tried to take the conversation away from it being about physical abuse, and said that I was asking her to leave because she didn't laugh. I asked Alice to leave because she had attacked me without warning instead of talking to me, and Alice knew this, as I had made it clear in person and on the text conversation that we were having. But Alice was trying to change the reason I wanted to break up to make me look like I had overreacted to her misunderstanding a joke, and not because I believed that she had assaulted me. Alice says, "'Cause I didn't laugh, 'cause I pushed you off." Once again showing that Alice clearly knew that she had been physical with me, and then mocked me and belittled me for it, even though she had started by calling me delusional for even suggesting that she had been and that this had taken place. Alice still calls me delusional to this day for believing this even took place, and says I am on Delulu Island in her document. I asked Alice to stay away from me, and she called me mental again. I told Alice that I would stay away from her because she hadn't stopped assaulting me, as I felt this was my only option that I had left. I complained again that I needed Alice to leave. I felt I was being intentionally pushed to my limits, and I had reached the point where I was afraid to interact with our cat or Alice out of fear of being assaulted, as it had been going on for months at this point. Alice calls me delusional again, and blamed me, saying that this was my decision when I had asked her to leave the house. But I wouldn't have asked Alice to leave if she hadn't have assaulted me. I had let the physical abuse towards me become normalised for reasons that I will go on to later in this video. But I had reached a point where I couldn't deal with it anymore, and felt there was no excuses to justify this situation, as it seemed Alice now believed that me wanting to leave because of this was an overreaction. Our relationship was incredibly toxic, and it affected us both severely, and I felt that we needed to be apart as things were getting worse. Alice says that I was horrible to her to justify the continued physical assaults on me, even though she had started this fight because I was joking, and had tried to hurt me to get me to stop. But to claim that this behaviour was exclusively one-sided is untrue, and does not justify resorting to physically assaulting me because of a joke. Alice then mentions I had said something to her the other day when her brother was over, and this story is actually in Alice's document. This wasn't the first time where Alice had treated me this way over the cat, but it's becoming a daily occurrence throughout our relationship. There are so many cases where I end up taking Bear into another room, saying that taking the cat off him is starting an argument when I only did it after he said weird things to him. Acts like a child had his toy taken away when realistically, I was uncomfortable with him being near my cat after saying what he does. Alice says that I acted like a child had his toys taken away, and that I complained that taking the cat off me is starting an argument. Alice then says I said weird things to him, and that's why she had taken him away. I was upset with Alice because, like in these texts where Alice justified assaulting me for talking to the cat and making jokes, Alice would use the cat as an excuse to assault me. I had broken down on a few occasions due to this, and I had gone to Alice and spoken to her about this because, as she says in her document, she was constantly taking the cat away from me, and I felt that this was done to get a rise out of me, as she knew that it upset me. Alice knew that I cared for the cat, but constantly referred to me being affectionate with the cat and talking to him as weird when I had asked why she'd taken him away, or pushed me and left the room. Alice messaged me that she realised I cared for the cat after we had broken up, but has still gone on to portray me being affectionate with the cat as a justifiable reason to physically assault me, which is why she had kept things intentionally vague when describing me talking to the cat as weird, and has cropped these texts, as Alice knew I was doing nothing out of the ordinary when it came to me and the cat. Alice says in her document that I was acting like a child because of this. I had asked Alice many times to stop hurting me for being affectionate and talking with the cat, like I am doing in these text messages. I had broken down crying in front of Alice, which is why she says I'm acting like a child. Alice makes it seem like I was overreacting to something small, and not that I was deeply affected by being assaulted and mocked constantly for talking to the cat and various other issues in our relationship. This is why Alice has intentionally hidden these text messages that show why I was so upset, so she could misrepresent my complaints as childish and unreasonable, even though she admits to doing this on many occasions. It was affecting me severely trying to deal with the gaslighting and manipulation, as well as the physical abuse while sharing a house together, and to read that my breakdowns have been described as acting like a child who had his toy taken away shows that Alice was aware that it affected me and is even now still insulting me and mocking me for pushing me to my breaking point. In the text messages, Alice continued to blame her hitting me on how I had reacted previously to the constant abuse I was under to justify her continuing to hurt me physically for things like jokes or talking to the cat. If Alice didn't have a reason for why she had hit me, she would say it was because I had done something previously to deserve it, like in these messages. Alice says she pushed me away because it was my fault and all I do is call her names, but that is not at all what happened or how this argument took place. I would get upset after I was pushed, slapped or punched. I was horrible to Alice on many occasions and I deeply regret this behaviour, and nothing will justify that. But the order in which these events have been portrayed as false, as Alice is once again ignoring that she had tried to hurt me when I was just talking with our cat. I was upset and frustrated that Alice hadn't apologised for getting physical with me, and I lashed out at Alice over text, which I regret. I told Alice that this isn't what I signed up for in a relationship, and it was hard for me to follow whether Alice was upset when we had been totally fine, and then suddenly she had hit me. Alice then says that I had dragged her in an argument and that I had shouted at her. I ignore this in the text messages as it was untrue, and I've covered this in this video already. Alice says that I said weird shit, so she pushed me off and then told me to grow up and to cry because I was upset that she had got physical with me. I pointed out that it was really strange to me that Alice knew that I was joking around with her, but was still treating me like it was okay to assault me, and that I should go and cry about her physically assaulting me. Alice then says that I was actually provoking her on purpose because I knew she didn't like it when I talked to the cat. We lived together and the cat was ours, and creating rules like saying I can't talk to him because she was annoyed at me is unfair and unreasonable. I went on to tell Alice that I was tired of being hit for just being myself. I thought we were having fun, but now I didn't know if I would be punched or pushed for just joking around, and because of this I wanted to break up, as it was clear that our relationship was not working and we could not be together if issues this small would lead to physical violence. Alice then said she knew that I wasn't being serious, to which I told her that she shouldn't hit me. Alice then denied hitting me. I did not expect Alice to admit it, as I become used to Alice completely downplaying and excusing being physically abusive in our relationship and mocking me whilst continuing to call me delusional. As shown in this video, Alice has lied and hidden physically abusing me on multiple different occasions, like she's doing here in these text messages. I then told Alice I had to stop the conversation as I was really struggling with being gaslit about what had happened and then being insulted. This would cause me to get very upset, and I would struggle massively when Alice would tell me that I was making everything up. Alice then proceeds to insult me again, and then mentions that I had insulted her. I fully admit that I used horrible language, but as you could see, Alice would insult me too, but would only focus on my behaviour and would completely ignore her own. I said to Alice that I was tired of her ruining normal interactions by getting annoyed with me. I felt that Alice was intentionally making excuses to justify hurting me, and that this had happened since we very first began dating, as I mentioned in these texts. We continued to talk, and then I proceeded to ask Alice to leave again, because I felt that she was trying to antagonise me. Alice said she didn't respect me, and that was why she was treating me this way. Once I realised this wasn't going to be resolved, as the conversation had just become Alice insulting me further and trying to gaslight me, I told Alice that I had to go back to work, as I had been in an ongoing battle to retrieve the money my YouTube channel had owed from my YouTube network, as it had been taken away from me and they had stopped paying me at the time. Alice knew that I had been in a battle with my network for tens of thousands of pounds, as it had been withheld from me for months, and I had no income stream because of this, as they were continuing to take future payments from me. I was still paying for every expense in our house and using my savings, as I was the only person working at the time. Alice says I took my equipment away from her, but that was because I was using it to make videos and to try and continue working so I could afford to support us and the cat. Alice then says she pushed me because I was in her face. This is a complete lie, as I was laying down flat on my back in bed with the cat on my chest, and Alice moved towards me and pushed me. This shocked me, and I started to feel extremely worried about how Alice had begun to twist the narrative that I somehow had gone from just telling a joke about the cat to now being in Alice's face. Not only did Alice then downplay how hard she hit me, she had begun to rewrite the story of me being at fault over text. I said to Alice I didn't think things were going to get better, and this showed me that our relationship would not improve, to which I again asked if we could end our relationship. Alice said that I had flaws, and she is correct. I tried to work through them when we were together, but I felt like the line had to be drawn somewhere before things got worse, which they did. I did not want the way we had treated each other to be an ongoing excuse to allow things to continue to get worse. If we couldn't find solutions, I believed it was right to break up, as the ongoing abuse was not something that should continue. Alice then continued to say that she doesn't respect me after I told her that I had been working harder despite the financial issues that I was having at the time. Alice then told me to come here and say it to her face when I said that I wanted her to leave. At this point I was annoyed, and I had told Alice to get out again and to leave the house, as she was actively trying to escalate the situation by trying to start an argument with me in person and being aggressive over text. Alice continued to antagonize me, and then mocked me for not working a 9 to 5. This would happen when I complained about how stressed I was that I hadn't been paid, and it was becoming a huge struggle trying to provide for 2 people and the cat. Alice then accuses me again of kicking her out because she didn't like my joke. At this point I started to get increasingly more upset, as this had been going on for hours now. Whenever I brought up any issues, I would be gaslit and constantly misrepresented. This is something I really struggled to deal with. Alice tried to make me feel like my reasons for wanting to break up were stupid, and that I was over-emotional and overreacting. Alice then proceeded to mock me again when I started listing reasons for why I can no longer put up with the constant fighting in our relationship. I said to Alice I was totally fine before she had pushed me. I was not taking anything out on Alice, as Alice was the one who had antagonized and laid hands on me. Alice would then take my reaction and claim that I had started the fight or the argument, like she has done in her document and on these text messages, even though she assaulted me. Alice then proceeded to repeat again that I wanted her to leave and break up, not due to the physical abuse, but in fact because she didn't laugh at my jokes with the cat, which is completely misrepresenting my actual feelings again. Alice then says, bro dumped me, kicked me out, and then asked to talk and calls me an idiot. Alice ignores that she had physically assaulted me and verbally berated me on text the entire time, and that I had tried to talk about it properly multiple times without fighting. At this point, I then snap at Alice and I insult her, and then the conversation continues to get worse. We then decided to talk in person about it, but Alice continued to antagonize me when I said we should talk normally and not be angry and shout at each other. Alice then tells me that I need to try my best. Alice then refused to talk in my office and instead made me go to her. When I went into our bedroom and asked what could be done to prevent this from happening again, Alice told me that I would have to get used to her hitting me if I continued to speak to the cat. I told her that was insane and that continuing to hit me as an answer was stupid, and if that is really all she's going to continue saying, I no longer wanted to be in a relationship together. Alice then left the room. I instantly regretted calling Alice stupid, as it was childish of me to resort to insults, but I was incredibly taken aback and upset at this even being a suggestion that I would have to get used to Alice hitting me if I didn't change the way I interact with the cat for her. I then politely asked Alice over text to go somewhere else that night, as it was clear that we couldn't communicate with each other without arguing. Alice then says that I said that we can't interact with each other and that I was suggesting that we can't be together, which clearly upset her. I honestly and openly explained to Alice that if she believed that physical violence was the answer, that our relationship was beyond saving, unless she felt she could find other ways to deal with these issues, which she told me that she couldn't. Alice told me she wouldn't change her behaviour. I felt this was enough of a reason for me to ask Alice to leave, as I didn't want to constantly worry about being hit again. Alice proceeds to mock me and call me a mental case, and then says that she is just doing what I had told her to do. Alice continued to argue with me and called me butthurt in text messages. I was incredibly upset with how this had been handled, Alice again makes it seem like what I'm asking for is unreasonable and says sorry for doubling down, for pushing you off with a question mark. As you can see, Alice showed 5 carefully picked screenshots of our text messages to convince people that this is an entirely different story than to the reality of what had happened at the time. This was not the only ongoing issue surrounding the cat, and Alice wrote in her document that she didn't want me near Bear because I would call him mine, and she capitalized this. Alice would shout at me and get physical with me when I said the cat was ours. I never said to anyone that the cat was mine. We were a couple who had brought him together and lived together, so I believed that it was our cat. Alice had paid the £50 deposit for Bear and asked me to pay the remaining £200 so that we could get him. I believed this meant that he was our cat as we had both paid for him and we were moving in with each other. I then posted him on my Instagram story after we had gone to get him together. Alice got upset at me and told me that she hated that people were saying congratulations to me and calling him mine in my comments, so I removed the posts. Even after me and Alice moved in with each other, I was not allowed to do anything with the cat as Alice had made it clear, like she has in this document, that he did not belong to me. And this led to her pushing and slapping me for interacting with him or treating him like he belonged to us both when we were living together. Alice has tried to hide that she had been physically and verbally abusing me, would gaslight me, and that she would even attack me to paint her abuse as purely reactionary, which is not the case. Alice never shows that I was reacting to constant abuse at any point to make it seem like I would react terribly for no reason. I struggled massively with the constant mental and physical abuse that I faced throughout our relationship, and it had affected me severely to be in this situation constantly, as our arguments would devolve into name-calling and pulling each other down. I am ashamed when I read these texts back of how I behave when we would argue. To resort to insults is unacceptable, and it was never okay for me to make personal jabs at Alice. Alice had found out that I had told my friends about the physical abuse because they had leaked my messages to her, and because of this, Alice claimed I was making up a contradictory story to hers to release publicly on my own accord. She does not mention that I was responding to lies that I'm a convicted abuser that she had posted on her TikTok publicly, and that she had been going through and following my friends months after we had broken up, trying to get their attention to spread this lie, which ended up with my friends asking me to explain this to them after seeing the TikToks that Alice was posting online. I was reacting to Alice's public posts and lies about me, but Alice has hidden that she was constantly harassing me to make it seem like I'd gone out of my way to talk badly about her for no reason, when in reality Alice was trying to isolate me and antagonizing me into responding to her for months. When Alice had received the messages from my friends, she accused me of lying. Alice said if I told people she hit me in our relationship that she would sue me, even though I was sharing privately that her posts alleging that I was a convicted criminal were untrue. Alice then proceeded to admit to hitting me during our relationship in the same conversation where she threatened to sue me for telling people that she had been hitting me. Alice then excused this behaviour by telling me it's okay for women to hit men if they are being an asshole. Alice mocked me for complaining about the physical abuse as she believed it was justified, and then told me that if I wanted it to stop, I should make a public apology towards her. Alice told me if she wanted to expose me publicly that she would have posted a document about me. I later found out when my ex-girlfriend Jess messaged me that Alice had told Jess that she had been building a folder on me since January. Alice had stayed in contact with me for months where she antagonized me, threatened me, and continued to mentally abuse me so that she could knowingly put my reactions into her document that she had started building in January. Alice said that it wasn't like she had named me in these posts or made a video about me, but she had responded and deleted comments on videos she posted saying it was about me and that I was on Clares Law, which again is a lie. My friends saw the TikToks Alice had been posting online as she had gone through and followed them all after our breakup. Me and my friends had a call where I answered questions about my relationship, and I told my side of the story where I explained that Alice had been physically abusing me throughout our relationship. I made it clear that I did not believe that this was an excuse for my behaviour, and that our relationship was toxic and it was not good for either of us, and that I was ashamed of how I had behaved. A friend of mine at the time, a YouTuber who goes by the name of ImAllexx, had messaged me in our group chat encouraging me to share more stories and all the evidence I had of Alice's abuse. He told me I could trust him and that because we were friends that they weren't going to share any of it anywhere and that it would remain private after I made it clear that I was worried that it would be leaked. Alice messaged me with direct screenshots from the private conversation that I had had with ImAllexx and my friends. Alice had been sent screenshots from our private conversation, and it was clear that if I talked to anyone she would know as she was following as many of my friends as possible. Alice said I shouldn't be lying about her hitting me and that she would sue me, but as I've already covered in these texts earlier in this video, she then went on to admit to hitting me in these messages and in her document. Alice made it clear to me that I couldn't talk to anyone about what I had experienced, as she was now contacting all my friends and isolating me completely, which is exactly what I feared she would do, as she had made it clear that there was nobody I could talk to who she couldn't reach, as she was sending me my own conversations so that I would know that I couldn't get away from her or talk about what had happened with anyone, including my friends, as they were going to leak my messages to her. When Alice's document was posted, ImAllexx posted various stories and a document about me that contains many statements that are false. ImAllexx had messaged YouTube commentary channels after our conversation where I privately entrusted him with my abuse story, even though he told me that what I shared with him would remain private. According to the YouTuber Samuel, ImAllexx told him that I had refused to answer any of his questions despite us having an hour call and there being various messages and a conversation disproving this, as it was leaked directly to Alice.
Hey, I just thought I'd come in to say that I've spoke to Alice, the ex of Alex, and I've also spoke to ImAllexx. According to ImAllexx as well, Alex has sort of ignored people, ignored everybody, sort of gone into like a recluse, not messaging anyone back. Not even messaging ImAllexx back about their podcast that recently failed. Nothing like that.
I was incredibly confused as I did not understand why these people had been told lies about what had happened when Fraser had told me that I could trust him with talking to him about the abuse I had gone through and that it would remain between us because we were friends. ImAllexx posted on his Instagram story that I had refused to talk about this and has shared messages of him discussing my relationship with other people. He says, "But the man never wanted to discuss it with us ever." I had spoken to Fraser on a few occasions about how I was struggling with Alice and how it was upsetting me, which directly contradicts what Fraser has posted publicly on his Instagram stories. Fraser wrote, "We thought they were still together or seeing each other, lol, and that he suspected that we kept breaking up. After I finally felt like I could talk about this when I believed Alice had left me alone, I opened up to him that the last 4 months had been very hard for me." Fraser never shows him asking me about Alice or any of my messages to him, as it would show that he was lying, as I was the one who had tried to arrange a call with him privately after I had been confiding in him with the issues I had had surrounding Alice. Fraser wrote, "The dude never discussed personal stuff with us, lol, solely just YouTube and games. But Alice had full access to my phone when we were together, and was threatening me after our breakup if I mentioned anything to anyone, like she has done after these messages I had with Fraser were leaked. And I did open up fully and honestly about what had been going on for that year when I asked him to call, and in the messages that he has cropped out. I had asked him to call multiple times, and I had told him that I was free to speak to him whenever. I tried to arrange multiple calls to talk about the situation, as you can see in these messages on Facebook. I was willing to answer questions even after my messages had been leaked." In the live stream, Samuel says that I was a recluse, but I went home because Fraser had told me that I should go see my parents and that I should take time off from the internet. To say I didn't attempt to talk to him about this is a barefaced lie. I understand him not wanting to be involved. I am not his responsibility, and he should not have to answer for my own personal problems just because we were once friends. However, what has been posted publicly is not true, and therefore I believe it is only right that I correct this. Fraser has intentionally cropped our messages that he posted on his Instagram story to portray a version of events which is not true. Since the conversation me and Fraser had, where I made it very clear in the messages that I had been at fault, Fraser has lied that I tried to claim that I was a victim. In reality, I explained that it was complicated and that I had been at fault, and that our relationship was very different from what Alice had posted publicly that they had seen. In a document ImAllexx posted responded to allegations that were made against him by his ex-girlfriend Kirsty, ImAllexx made a series of comments about me. Fraser claims that I am a widely disliked content creator, and that I have been since 2019, and that he only remained friends with me because he is a loyal person. I find this rather odd, as Fraser told me that I could trust him, and that he wouldn't talk to anyone, and then spoke to strangers with YouTube channels that interviewed him, and then shared what he had said about me publicly. Fraser goes on to then downplay our friendship, as Kirst accuses him of openly admitting to her that he was only ever friends with me so he could use me to further his career, as he benefited from me. I would like to make it clear for context that I didn't know Kirst personally, and I only ever met her on one occasion. To make posts where she acts like she knew me in any way, shape or form personally is odd when our paths only crossed on one occasion. Fraser denies this by claiming that my YouTube channel has been on a decline since 2019 and that I am no longer relevant, mentioning that I was a widely disliked content creator, so it couldn't be possible that he was using me. For someone who apparently wasn't using me, ImAllexx seems to have a lot of knowledge about my relevancy in YouTube statistics over a 5-year period, as shown in his statement. Fraser claims that I was always disliked and that he was seen as an idiot for being friends with me, and then he wrote this in this paragraph. As you can see, this allegation is really strange to me. Yes, I regret being friends with ImAllexx, but the suggestion I benefited with him is actually quite wild to me, considering it was a public thing of how disliked he was. I actually was seen as a bit of an idiot for remaining friends with him, and truthfully that's a fair criticism. These statements confused me as Fraser asked me personally if I wanted to start a podcast with him. I said yes because I believed that we were friends and that he was asking me because we had been for years, as we had spent a lot of time together. Fraser writes in his document that we only saw each other walking his dog for the most part, and in mid-2023 we started gaming a lot more together and speaking way more than we usually did. And that obviously led to us making a podcast that lasted 4 episodes. October 2023 is around the time I had moved out of London, and to suggest that we became friends after the fact is disingenuous. We had hung out regularly since we became friends in 2018, and we used to go on holiday abroad together. We had also kept in contact just as much when I moved away. To portray our friendship as only being a recent thing is just completely untrue. Fraser's statement is also incorrect, as we have actually also done 5 episodes of our podcast instead of the 4 that Fraser wrote in his document. Fraser travelled over an hour to visit me a month before Alice posted her TikToks and stayed at my house with friends as I had moved outside of London. In our own podcast, Fraser says that we would talk every day, which is why we decided to start the podcast in the first place.
I've been a big fan of podcasts that go on and are just super casual between friends, and there's like 150 episodes.
Well, that's why I feel like this isn't going to be like your last ventures, because for one, you've always done it high budget, which is not like a thing to criticize, but it's like this is on Discord, like, and we speak to each other. We speak to each other every day. We're on calls, so like, there's no reason for us. It makes sense for us to. We talk about YouTube all the time. We're always speaking about things going on. It makes sense to just get on camera like once or twice a week and just speak about it on a long form, hour to 2 hour thing.
After our call, Fraser didn't reach out to me at any point. I asked him if he leaked our messages, and when I saw the clip where Samuel claimed that Fraser had told him that I had been avoiding him the entire time, which as you could see was at no point true. Fraser posted on his Instagram story that I refused to share the private messages I had with Alice with him, but the reason that I didn't share them is because I was worried that they would be leaked, which is exactly what happened after I spoke to him. Fraser posted that he believed I might sue him for posting these stories, but I have no intention of doing so, and there would be no reason to worry if what he posted was actually true. Alice had followed everyone in my friendship circle months after our breakup, and was using my friends to gather information on me by posting videos that were intended to get a reaction out of me by falsely claiming that I am a convicted criminal. Alice wanted to find out what I would say to defend myself to my friends so that she could build the document backwards from this to make it look like I was lying. If Alice hadn't continued to harass me privately and publicly, I would never have had to tell my friends that she had been abusing me throughout our relationship, but due to the constant harassment I was left with no choice. Alice wouldn't only just threaten me privately, but would also threaten me when we went out in public. Alice had threatened to punch me in the street, and then it began shouting at me. I walked away from Alice as soon as she had threatened me, and this is the text conversation that we had as I was walking away from her. I told Alice that she had gone too far by shouting that she would punch me in public, because we had had a small disagreement about me visiting her house, as Alice had told me that she was embarrassed, and she thought that I would leave her if I went over and saw her family and where she lived. Alice sent me these messages and then said that she had done nothing wrong. I told her I didn't know if I wanted to come over anymore, as she had just threatened to hit me in public. Alice had shouted that she was going to hit me so loudly that I got a comment from someone who had seen me walking away after Alice had shouted at me, which I sent to her on iMessage. Not only did Alice threaten me throughout our relationship, but she also blackmailed me throughout the entire time we were together and afterwards. Alice has written in her document that after our breakup, I begged for her to come back, and I also sent gifts and a letter to convince Alice to get back with me because I wanted her to forgive me. But this is not an accurate version of what had happened, and it is a lot more complicated than Alice has portrayed. She had intentionally lied and left out hundreds of messages and events that do not show the reality of what was actually happening. Alice was continuously blackmailing me and had been abusing me for our entire relationship. I had tried to leave our relationship at many points, and Alice has taken this and wrote in her document that I would threaten to break up with her as a form of manipulation. This is not true, and I have shown that I tried to break up with Alice after she physically assaulted me and blackmailed me, and I stayed because she would threaten me if I tried to leave. When I told Alice I did not want to be involved with her anymore after we broke up, she began posting online the lie that I had a criminal record and that I was on Clares Law. Alice then started posting TikToks about me, and this led to the situation that she orchestrated when she had begun to follow all of my friends after we had broken up, so that I couldn't escape her. At one point, Alice told me that she wanted me to plan something soon, and then she said I should make her dinner. This is completely contradictory to the claims that Alice has made in her document, where she says she had no interest in talking to me, as in reality, she was emotionally manipulating me and blackmailing me while she was writing a document on me at the same time, trying to dismantle my life. Alice accuses me of being manipulative after our breakup, even though when I tried to end things, Alice threatened to call the police and lie about me if I didn't back down. Alice said that I am the one who asked her to dinner, when as shown in these messages, it was Alice who asked me. And Alice has constantly accused me of doing the things that she has done in her document. Alice would continually emotionally abuse me and manipulate me whilst threatening me so that she could build her document on me, which she has constantly lied in. Alice complained that after she had moved out, I didn't seem panicked enough and sent me this text message. I moved out. I thought your mind would be more panicked that I won't come back. Alice also sent me text saying she had left because she wanted me to know what it's like to be without her. We had many conversations about getting back together, and when I realised I was being emotionally manipulated and blackmailed by Alice, I tried to break it off on multiple occasions. This is when Alice began to start posting about me and following friends and making threats. Alice has written in a document that I had refollowed girls that I had slept with, and that I had told her I was going to refollow everyone that I had unfollowed for her. Alice had gone through and isolated me from my friends throughout our relationship, and was even stalking me after our breakup. I sent her this message to show that she was no longer in control of me and could no longer make me stop talking to my friends. Although we had been broken up for months at this point, Alice was still messaging me about the girls that I had followed on Instagram or friends that I had refollowed. Alice sent me this message saying that any girl that I speak to would be ugly anyway, and proceeded to insult them after claiming that she hasn't tried to stalk me or try to control me in her document. I refollowed my friends when it became clear to me that I was being manipulated and blackmailed by Alice. This is because Alice had unfollowed them on my phone. I did not follow many girls that I had had relations with, and we had not been together for months at this point. Alice has posted texts and videos of me begging for her back and apologising to her. I understand how irrational my behaviour looks, as I was going from one extreme to another emotionally. I was desperate for any form of solution, as it is clear from the voice notes and videos that Alice has shared that the constant emotional manipulation was having a severe effect on me, and I was saying whatever I thought I had to at the time to end the constant arguing, fighting, and blackmail. Alice would string me along intentionally whilst blackmailing me and threatening me if I didn't do exactly as she had asked. She would then tell me to send voice notes apologising, as she would refuse to call me on the phone after making accusations about me cheating on her or being physically abusive, and threatening to tell people things about me that were not true. Alice had threatened me throughout our relationship, and I did as she asked in the hopes that the constant harassment and lying would eventually stop. I was worried that if I didn't do as she asked, that she would post more lies about me online. I would send Alice voice notes apologising because I did many things wrong throughout our relationship. I should not have retaliated with the horrific language and insults, and I was deeply ashamed that I had lowered myself to that type of behaviour. I continued to apologise because Alice had begun to lie about me and harass me after we had broken up. I found out later when my ex-girlfriend Jess contacted me that Alice had told her that she had been planning this document since January, the month that we had broken up. I was already aware that Alice had been planning something when we were together, as she would tell me that she would add stuff to her notes after we had had arguments and fights, and that if I ever broke up with her, she would post what she had on me on Instagram, and that I needed to change my behaviour for her to work things out. Me and Alice stayed in contact for months after our breakup, and I told Alice that I was going to get 2 new kittens. Alice said that if I'm going to get 2 new kittens, I must not be planning on her moving back in, but I was under the impression that we had broken up and that our relationship was over. Alice was still trying to control my life and the decisions I made, using the possibility of us getting back together to control me, as I hoped that if we got back together, that means Alice would no longer blackmail me. I later realised that this was done intentionally so that Alice could use my breakdowns from the stress for her document. Alice also claims that I had been harassing her after our breakup, and that I turned up to her house to return items with a letter as proof of this. This entire story she has written is untrue. Alice wrote, he ended up sending things to my house like teddy bears and flowers, his hoodie that had been sprayed heavily with his aftershave, and a letter to try and achieve this. Alice has made it look like I'd taken it upon myself entirely to send her a letter and a teddy bear, and that I was turning up to her house uninvited without warning to deliver her things. This is a complete lie, as Alice had asked me to send her this letter and teddy bear directly, as shown in these screenshots. Alice sent me a TikTok about writing her a love letter. When I followed up by sending the TikTok to Alice on iMessage, I asked her if this is what she wanted. She said, "You do you, I just don't expect it." Alice has not included this, as not only does it show that she had asked me to do this, She was also blackmailing me at this time and threatening me when I didn't do as she had asked. I had also asked Alice if it was okay for me to deliver her the items she had left behind and let her know when I was coming so that it wasn't a surprise to her, because Alice had accused me of stealing her belongings, even though at no point had I ever done anything but offer to return them after she had left. Not only did I want to return Alice's items, but I was tired of Alice accusing me of stealing them when at no point had I planned to keep hold of them. Alice had not asked for them to be returned up until the point of claiming that I had stolen them. Alice has now used the letter that she asked me to write and the fact that I had delivered her these items as a tool to create a false narrative about me. On top of Alice making requests, it was clear to me that she would continue to threaten and blackmail me if I didn't do exactly as Alice had asked, and accusing me of stealing is just one example of this. Alice has also gone on to accuse me of smashing up her belongings, which is a lie. At no point had I broken anything of Alice's during our relationship, and as you can see from these messages that Alice has left out of her document, she sent me pictures of her monitors a few days after our argument where Alice had falsely accused me of assaulting her and threatened to report me to the police because I had asked Alice to stay away from me because I no longer wanted to be in a relationship with her. I told Alice I did not know how this happened, but I offered to pay for new ones to avoid any more arguments, as I was already drained from the constant false accusations, threats and blackmail. Alice has fabricated a story about me breaking her glasses in her document, which is a lie. Alice used her notes as proof that this had happened, but has invented this story retroactively, as shown by the fact that it had been added after she had moved out, specifically for the document. Alice has posted videos of me threatening her in arguments, and firstly I would like to make it clear that it is completely unacceptable under any circumstances that I did this. I said horrific things in these arguments to hurt Alice, and we both said careless things to each other in the hopes that we could annoy the other person and upset them when we started to fight. The language used in our relationship had become deeply normalised, and I'm incredibly ashamed that I contributed to that. I was fully aware at the time that this was completely unacceptable, and nothing makes this behaviour okay. Alice has continued to lie about the nature of our conversations and made this tweet where she denied calling me a dog at any point, which as shown in this text message is a lie. In this thread of tweets made, people accused me of being drunk in these videos, which is untrue, and Alice even corrected this and told people that I did not drink throughout our relationship. Since Alice posted these, she has accused me of controlling behaviour in a document and has lied about me many times in these stories that she has shared. Alice accused me of threatening to break up with her for liking followers' tweets, but has left out the singular tweet that she had liked and that we had had an entire text conversation about, as it would show that Alice was lying. When she was asked if these tweets were to do with cheating on Twitter, Alice said no and denied this. This once again is a lie. The entire conversation Alice references here is about cheating, and this is why she doesn't include or show the tweet and the hundreds of text messages that prove that she is lying once again, as she gaslit me and insulted me for hours and is now trying to make people believe an entirely different story. After our first date, Alice liked a tweet from a follower that said they could treat her better. As you can see from the screenshot of this conversation, I was not trying to control Alice. I was asking why she had liked a tweet that I felt that was disrespectful, and was telling her it made me uncomfortable when I was trying to resolve the issue. At no point did I tell Alice to unlike fans' tweets, as that was not at all what our conversation was about, and I didn't make any demands or threats like Alice had claimed about her fans. I sent Alice the screenshot of her likes as it had come up on my timeline. Alice was instantly dismissive, and then told me that she had done nothing wrong after she had started to ignore my messages. Alice then said she had liked more tweets and that she didn't care, and said bye to try and end the conversation. I told Alice how it made me feel and that I didn't like that she wasn't taking how I felt into consideration. Alice told me it wasn't a big deal and then began to ignore me. This would happen often when I would bring up any issues with Alice. She would stonewall me to discourage me of trying to talk about any issues that I had. When I told her again it was disrespectful, Alice dismissed me. Alice then started telling me 80% of her DMs were people saying that they could treat her right, which didn't make me feel reassured at all. I didn't feel like Alice was trying to help, and I started to feel like Alice intentionally wanted me to feel insecure. Alice says that I am the one doing this and not her, and blames me for even bringing it up in the first place, as if I had started this argument when I was reacting to something that Alice had done that had upset me. Alice would do this often and would turn my reactions into the start point of arguments, totally ignoring what she had done that had upset me. Alice refuses to apologise again and says she had done nothing wrong. I told her it was disrespectful to do something like this publicly and that I didn't like it. Alice replies sarcastically saying she is sorry she ruins my rep and asks me what I want from her again. I then told Alice she was clearly trying to avoid saying anything to reassure me, as she had gone out of her way to do the opposite. Alice then claims she actually did reassure me, and then sarcastically texts me that she won't ruin my rep again. Alice then begins to mock me for wanting her to apologise, and then says sorry for liking a fan's tweet, which is not at all what I had an issue with, as Alice has tried to portray here and in her document. My issue was with the way she would treat me, and now she would have been upset if I had done something similar. Alice has lied again about why I was upset, and has hidden the hundreds of messages of me trying to have a conversation about this, and then has written in a document something that is completely untrue. Alice then tries to make me feel bad for bringing it up, and was adamant that all she had done was reassure me, and I told her that what she had done wasn't enough. Alice then starts to swear at me and insults me. This annoyed me, and I told Alice she can call me when she got back, as texting was clearly not working. And as a couple, I felt that now we needed to call to settle this issue, as it had become way bigger than it needed to be, as I felt Alice was now intentionally trying to upset me. Alice then says I tried to force an apology out of her, but at this point I was just upset that I felt that I had been forced into asking for one that wasn't genuine after Alice had continued to mock me. Alice then accused me of being the person who was throwing a fit, and continues to downplay that I was upset that what I had seen was disrespectful and on some level a form of cheating. Alice says I heard you, to which I respond in detail of why I felt like everything Alice had done was not acceptable or an apology. I felt I was communicating clearly, but Alice mocked me again and said, "Yes, Dad." I then got upset even more because I felt I was being belittled and mocked. Alice then sent me another sarcastic apology when I mentioned again how disrespected I had felt. Alice then calls me a baby and tells me she doesn't understand why I was upset at all in the first place. I told Alice I felt she was more concerned with having to say sorry than she was about me being upset, and that her response threw me massively. Alice calls me a child and immature. I admit I could have handled things better from the start, but from reading these conversations back, it is clear to me that no matter what I had done, I was going to be mocked and insulted for bringing up how I felt. I then asked Alice if she wanted to talk on call instead, as I struggled with communicating over text, and I thought that would make it easier. Alice then tells me that she is going to scream at me. Alice continues to insult me and calls me a baby again. I told her that this was not necessary and that I didn't like having to fight with Alice to be taken seriously. Alice responded by spamming me with messages. I asked her to stop, to which Alice said that all of this had happened because of how I talked to her, blaming me for the whole argument, and gaslighting me that she had actually been reassuring me from the start. I made it clear again the issues I had with the way the conversation unfolded. Alice responded with insulting me again and blaming me for why she had tried to belittle me and hurt my feelings. Alice says I did not acknowledge her or her apology, but at no point had Alice apologised to me in these text messages at all in any way. Alice at first tries to gaslight me and questions it being a sarcastic apology. She then says that it's what I wanted to hear, and then proceeds to gaslight me again that I have misinterpreted the entire conversation. I start to get annoyed at this point, as it's clear that Alice is intentionally trying to gaslight me about what had taken place. Alice then proceeded to argue with me and spam me again. Alice begins to gaslight me again to avoid apologising, and when I tell her to read it from my perspective, she calls me Delulu. I called out Alice for gaslighting me, and she replied saying she says it how it is. Alice has gone on to write another story in her document about me which is completely untrue. Alice writes in her document that after going through my phone she found pictures of my ex-girlfriends on there, and this once again is a complete lie. Alice says he ended up being secretive over his phone to what I then discovered was him stalking his ex on all social platforms. In brackets, it's been years since they broke up, and found her old NSFW pictures he kept of her. He said sorry, and that was it. Alice also showed a message that says, "It was never an issue before, so why is it now?" in regards to going through my phone. This is because I had refused to give Alice my phone. Alice has created this story and put it in her document, despite saying on Twitter that at no point did I ever cheat, which makes no sense, as that is what she accuses me of doing throughout the entire document. Alice had complete access to my phone and social media from the moment we began dating, and the moment I tried to stop this from happening, Alice got annoyed at me, accused me of cheating and threatened to break up with me, but has cropped these messages out of her document. Alice had full access to my phone from the moment we began dating, and would come in my room daily to check on who I had been talking to. This started the first couple weeks into dating, after Alice slapped me because I had been invited to a party in LA by a TikToker. I didn't respond to the message and showed it to Alice, which resulted in her still being upset at me for being in contact with any female influencers or friends. Alice told me she would only feel better if she could slap me, and if she was allowed to go through my friends list and unfollow and block people, which became a regular occurrence throughout our relationship. Alice forced me to cut contact with many girls that I had known for years, and I allowed this because I did not want to be slapped over something that was easily preventable. I thought it would be easier to let Alice have access to my phone than to potentially start a fight that would end up with me being hit or having my phone taken, because I would be accused of potentially cheating on Alice, even though I never replied to these messages that I received. In the instance that Alice is referring to, I had refused to give her my phone because I had reached out to a friend of mine and I had told them that Alice had been hitting me, and that I didn't know what to do about it, as she had threatened and blackmailed me when I had tried to leave our relationship. Alice had tried to grab my phone out of my hand, which is why she sent me these text messages. Alice would come in my room and take my phone off me on random occasions daily to go through my socials, which she admits to in this document. I hadn't deleted the messages of my friend, so I refused to give Alice my phone because I knew if she found out I had told anyone about the abuse, things would get worse. In the text Alice shows in the document, she leaves out that I said she could come and take my phone if she wanted it. Alice then threatens to leave me if I don't let her look at my phone, after calling me guilty for holding on to it when she tried to take it out of my hand by force. Alice accused me of cheating and stalking my ex-girlfriends because I would no longer give her access to my phone. On this occasion where I held onto my phone, Alice tried to take it out of my hand and then pushed me when I refused. To make it clear, I at no point had access to Alice's phone, and I had never asked for it. For our entire relationship, Alice had full access to my phone, went through my following and text messages, and would threaten me and hit me if I refused to hand over my phone or unfollow people who I knew. If I refused, she would take my phone later that day and unfollow them anyway. Alice would accuse me of cheating because she knew I would hand her my phone to show her that I hadn't been. I find it incredibly confusing that Alice has accused me of controlling behaviour when Alice has openly admitted in this document to having full access to my phone, to the point where she has written a story about me where she was upset that I refused to let her take it off of me, as if I was the abusive one for not letting her have it. Alice wrote in her document that time passed and small things became huge issues which were over Discord at first. Alex felt that because I am home all day and work from home that I would be able to call 24/7 and completely shut out any other social interactions I have with my friends. To avoid that, I invited him into my groups and I stopped working as much. This is untrue. Alice had told me that she wanted to quit her job as an OnlyFans model. It was her idea and not mine. The arguments about work stemmed from many things. We would both insult each other and belittle each other. Our relationship was horrifically toxic, and none of this is acceptable. Alice had willingly invited me into our friendship circle to play games with her and her friends, and I had invited Alice into mine. Alice would insult me when I was working, and would insult my friends when I would play games with them, and accused me of not spending any time with her. We were both incredibly toxic, petty, and mean to each other, and painting this behaviour as one-sided is unfair and untrue. We had both behaved despicably, and the more time we spent with each other, the more toxic our relationship became. After I moved in with Alice, Alice wouldn't let me go see any of my friends, and when I was invited to a party, Alice told me that I couldn't go. Me and Alice argued in person about my invite to this party, and Alice told me that I couldn't go because I had responsibilities, although at the time I had nothing planned and I was not aware that I had something to do on that weekend. The more the conversation went on, the more Alice told me that I would have to deal with the consequences if I went, and it made me very much feel like I was not allowed to go. Alice then began to guilt trip me and tried to make me feel bad for ever suggesting that I wanted to go to see my friends in the first place. When the party ended up happening, I didn't go, and all of the things that Alice said that I would have to be responsible for didn't happen, as it was not true, and it was simply being used as a way to keep me from going to the party. Throughout the time we lived together, Alice had friends and family around on multiple occasions, but I was not allowed to do the same. Alice was going through my phone and cutting me off from people I knew and would argue with me if I spent time in my office working or talking to the few friends that I had left. I had chosen to live near Alice and her family because that's what she wanted. But when I wanted to see my friends and family, Alice would make excuses for why I couldn't leave the house. Alice has posted in her document that I didn't ask her to move in and that I just assumed that she would. Not only do I find this accusation odd, it is also completely untrue. Alice's mum drove us to viewings together, and it was something that we had been planning for months. I did multiple viewings with Alice, and we ended up picking a house together and moving in with each other, which would not be possible if I hadn't asked, as we were both on the lease. This is something that we had mutually discussed, and I do not understand why Alice has written this. Alice says in her document that she told me she was scared to move in, and has screenshotted this exact text message in real time so that it could be used to build her document that she had been writing throughout our relationship. I was incredibly confused at why Alice had messaged me this after all the viewings we had gone to together. Obviously, I was not unaware of how horribly toxic our relationship was, as I tried to leave at many points, but I had been threatened or blackmailed out of doing so. I believe that Alice sent this so that she could retroactively build the full story she has ended up sharing publicly on social media, as there was never any concern for her safety shown at any point before this, and that's because I was never physically abusive towards Alice, and she knows this, as the only person constantly complaining about being physically abused was me. Alice had complained about me insulting her, but as I have shown, I would react badly to the constant physical abuse and gaslighting that I was being put through, which Alice has completely denied and hidden from her document. Alice has also gone on to accuse me of kicking her in her document, but what she has written is a completely false version of events. Alice says in her document that on her way out of the kitchen, I kicked her in the back, and that she turned away and said nothing. This story has been changed many times since this argument took place. When it happened, Alice texted me saying that I had only stuck a leg out. This is because I never kicked Alice, and her story has been greatly exaggerated to make me look like I had been physical with Alice throughout our relationship instead of her. Alice texted me recalling events after she had left, as we had texted each other about the argument that we had just had, and it's not at all what she has written in her document. Alice has taken this and then gone on to accuse me of kicking her in future arguments when it is not at all what had happened, as shown in these text messages. Alice started accusing me of kicking her for leverage against me, and started to say I kicked her when I tried to talk to her about the issues I had been bringing up throughout our relationship, and has now written a story backwards from this, which is untrue. Alice shared a video from the same day of me following her around and yelling at her. I am incredibly angry and upset in this video. The only context given is that Alice says that this is when I had kicked her, which, as I have shown, is not what she had said at the time in the text messages, as it is not what happened. I was angry and upset because Alice had hit me and then had begun to threaten me. When I got angry and started to lose my temper, Alice recorded me. Alice says that she recorded this because she was scared that I'd hit her again, but this is false, as I hadn't kicked her or hit her. Alice has then begun recording me halfway through an argument that started because she had hit me after we had argued on the sofa as a way to pass off a completely false story. I shouldn't have followed Alice around and ranted at her and insulted her, but I was incredibly upset with how she had hit me, and had then began to blame me for why she was abusing me, as she told me I deserved it. This is why I started listing all the things I had issues with, as I thought it was ridiculous that Alice had assaulted me again, and then treated me like I was the only part of the problem, and entirely responsible for why our relationship was so toxic. The kicking incident would be brought up in many arguments from this point on. The more we would fight after the breakup, the more I pulled away, and the more Alice would change the story to sound worse, and would tell me to apologise for kicking her after tormenting and blackmailing me. Alice has wrote in our document that I had carried many issues into our relationship, and has written that she is an empath and that I am a narcissist. This is not what I was told by Alice when we started dating. Alice had told me that she had borderline personality disorder, but that she was self-diagnosed. I am confused why this has not been mentioned at any point in this document, as it was a big part of our relationship and how we interacted with each other. Alice sent me a video on TikTok after we had an argument, because she had begun to verbally abuse me, go through my phone, and hit me during our arguments.
Do you or someone you know possibly have borderline personality disorder? Here are the key features. An intense fear of abandonment, even going to extreme measures to avoid it, whether it's real or just imagined. A pattern of unstable, intense relationships, such as idealizing someone one minute, and then as soon as that person falls short on something, seeing them as totally bad. Rapid changes in self-identity and self-image, sometimes even shifting their goals, shifting their values, or viewing themselves as bad, or sometimes even feeling as if they don't exist at all. Periods of paranoia that seem to be related to being stressed, and a loss of contact with reality, which can last from a few minutes to a few hours. Impulsive and risky behaviors that are fun in the moment but have a high chance of danger, such as gambling, reckless driving, unsafe sex, spending sprees, binge eating, drug abuse, or even sabotaging success by quitting a good job or ending a positive relationship. Suicidal threats or suicidal behavior, or even self-injury, often in response to the person fearing separation or abandonment. Wide mood swings that can last from a few hours to a few days and can include intense happiness or irritability or shame or anxiety. Ongoing feelings of emptiness. And here's the kicker: inappropriate, intense anger, such as losing their temper, being sarcastic or bitter, or even getting involved in physical fights. If you or someone you know is exhibiting a lot of these signs a lot of the time, it might be borderline personality disorder.
Alice had sent me this as an explanation for her behaviour, because I did not understand why she had been hitting me and insulting me from what seemingly came from nowhere. Alice told me that she had a mental illness, and that was why she was having these issues, and she wanted me to understand. I told Alice I didn't like the TikTok as she had sent it to me out of the blue, and that I would have preferred to have a proper conversation about something that was this serious. Alice says I was making her feel bad about her being her, and that I should know this stuff about her. I told her it was not something that I worried about, as I wanted to reassure Alice that it was something that we could talk about, and that I could understand it. To be clear, I was not diagnosed with BPD at the time of this conversation. I told Alice that it makes me anxious receiving a video unprompted about our relationship, saying that she would see me as entirely bad if I fall short, as I felt that that was a lot of pressure to put on someone when the reactions to my shortcomings were for Alice to become more controlling and physically abusive. I took it personally, and looking back on these messages, I should have handled this a lot better. I felt that I was being told that I could no longer speak up in our relationship, as I was being told that every issue was the result of this mental illness. I was worried that if I tried to talk about my problems, it would upset Alice or trigger her. After Alice told me that she had BPD, I chalked down a lot of the reactions and responses I was getting to Alice's mental illness. To see it not mentioned at all in the document, and to see Alice describe herself as an empath, is something that deeply confuses me, as it is not what I had been told throughout our relationship. Alice has also written a story about her birthday, where she accuses me of cancelling it. Alice wrote that he ended up cancelling coming to see me on my birthday, in brackets, or forgot it, and went to see Star Wars with his friend instead of seeing me. When I told him it was my birthday, he ended up going out after the movie to grab a gift and eventually came to my place at midnight. I spent the whole day waiting for him. He invalidates my feelings after I said I got upset about it and tried to justify it by hanging out properly before my birthday came. Everything that Alice has written about this is a lie. I did not forget Alice's birthday or cancel it, and the text messages from the day show that what Alice has written here is untrue. I was booked into a Star Wars premiere by my management, and I texted Alice straight away and made her aware that I was working earlier in the day, but that I could come over late. We hadn't arranged anything at this point, and there were no prior plans. I was telling Alice when I was available, and that I had work booked earlier in that day. I thought it was completely ordinary to go from work to see Alice on her birthday. I did not forget or cancel it. I did the opposite as shown in these messages, and I made plans a week in advance. Alice has written that I tried to arrange hanging out properly to justify apparently forgetting her birthday, even though the conversation was about her birthday and making plans for seeing her. This has nothing to do with Alice's birthday. I was simply telling her I wanted to hang out properly that day because the previous day we hadn't talked for very long. Alice then says I went to see a movie, but this is unfair as it was scheduled for work and I was transparent about this. It was never made apparent to me that Alice was upset about this or that this was at any point an issue. I had to attend work so I could pay for everything, especially due to the situation I was in financially with my YouTube network. Alice has said that I bought her a single gift after seeing the movie and that I eventually came to hers at midnight. I called Alice at 1 past midnight, the moment it had become our birthday, and I know this because I sent a picture of me calling Alice on iMessage, and we then spoke on Discord where I wished her happy birthday. Not only did I also text Alice throughout the day before I had left to see her, I wished her happy birthday on the text messages again for the second time after our call earlier in the morning. I had also bought Alice gifts in advance and wrapped them, and she knows this because I had already showed her that I had wrapped them before. It's not possible that I had forgot Alice's birthday and only bought one gift when I had sent her a picture of her presents that I had wrapped, and conveniently, this has been left out of the document as it doesn't fit the story that Alice has created. Alice says that I cancelled her birthday and that she had to tell me it was her birthday because I had forgotten it, but this is not true. I had sent texts to Alice about being excited to see her on her birthday, and that I had gone out to get her some more gifts on the day of her birthday to add to the ones I had already bought her and wrapped. I texted her asking for her wrist size for the bracelet that I was buying her as an add-on to the presents that I had already wrapped and ordered online. Alice says that she had spent the whole day waiting for me, but we texted the entire day. She was completely aware of when I was going to arrive and what my schedule with work was. I asked Alice to send me her address so that I could walk from the station, and then proceeded to send her a photograph of me carrying the bag of gifts that I had bought for her as I walked to her house. I did see Alice on her birthday as we had planned. I did not buy her one last minute gift on the way from work as I had brought everything with me. I went directly from work to see Alice as we had planned, and when I arrived everything was fine and there was no complaints about this because once again it was exactly as we had arranged. The entire paragraph that Alice has written about her birthday is a complete lie. I was confused when I read this originally as everything was so clearly a provable lie. I believe this was written because Alice had forgotten my birthday, and I complained about this on text when it happened, and because of this, Alice has written a story to make it seem like I had forgotten hers instead. Alice has also written in a document about the time that she had told me that she had been sexually assaulted in the past. Alice wrote that we ended up going on holiday together to Italy in July, and an argument came about when he was watching a video about a girl being hypersexual after trauma. I opened up to him about my essay and the trauma that I had been through myself. In response to this, he tells me he doesn't want to know what has been done to me by other guys, and I ended up leaving into another room crying. He threatened to leave and get a flight back on his own, taking into account this was my only third time abroad, and he knew that it would make me very upset and scared, like he knew I needed him there with me. Bringing up weird shit on our first holiday, you ruin every moment. I have no fond memories with you. I spoke about something I had gone through with the trauma, opening up to him about my experience of SA, and this is how he responded. This is not what happened at all. I was scrolling through TikTok and watching a video because I was about to record when Alice, who was standing behind me out of nowhere, told me that she had slept with many people due to hypersexuality. The video I was watching was not about sexual trauma at all, so I was massively taken aback by this comment and thought it was an odd thing to say on the first day of our holiday. I was not really sure what to say as a response, so I told Alice that I didn't like how she had brought this up, and I didn't think it was the best way to start a conversation about something as serious and delicate as this. She didn't open up to me about being sexually assaulted. I was not even aware of the conversation and what it was about, as Alice had only made a passing comment about hypersexuality and her previous partners. After I had finished work, I went to the bedroom to talk to her, and she refused to speak to me. Alice then told me that I should sleep on the sofa. I was more than willing to talk about whatever Alice wanted to, and I apologised for upsetting her. When I mentioned again that I was not annoyed, I was just surprised by what she had said. She told me she didn't care, pushed me, and told me to sleep in the other room. I sent Alice that message because I was incredibly defeated at the time. There was only so much fighting and physical abuse that I could take, and it had been constant for months. I was angry and upset about her pushing me constantly. It had nothing to do with the conversation about sexual assault that Alice has referenced in this document. I believe Alice has created this false version of events due to a conversation that we had after we had broken up, as Alice has started to use personal stories that I had told her to torment me. I had confided in Alice about being sexually assaulted when we had begun dating, and after our breakup, Alice had blackmailed me and was using my reactions to build a document. So she started to follow people that I knew and had personal connections with to try and trigger a reaction from me. Alice followed the person who I had told her had sexually assaulted me in the hopes that I would react. I was incredibly upset that Alice was using something deeply personal that I had told her about in confidence as a way to get to me. Alice messaged me saying that I knew why, and then went on to clarify that she did this because she was upset with me. We continued to talk about it, and this is when Alice told me that I should have fought back. I've blurred the names as I have no interest in making this a public matter, and I have no intention to discuss this publicly beyond this, as I hoped it would remain private between us. But Alice has since used this to try and hurt me, and has accused me of doing exactly what she had been doing intentionally to induce a mental breakdown that she could use for her document. Alice has still been harassing me online to this day, and has begun to go after other people that she believes are friends with me. Alice posted a series of comments on TikTok, claiming that every YouTuber who has similar thumbnails is working with me or for me. Fabricating stories that I am employed by any YouTuber who makes commentary videos is ridiculous and untrue. I have seen recently that multiple YouTubers have made videos on my former editor, Dankyjabo. They have accused him of being mentored by me, and they claim that we are friends. Because of this accusation, Dankyjabo has lost over 11,000 subscribers. The reason this rumour began is because Alice messaged the YouTuber known as Cataclysm and told her that a friend of hers had messaged Dankyjabo because he still followed me, and this can be found in a video that Cataclysm has deleted.
Standing by somebody who has been outed as an abuser or who you know is an abuser just because Alex has done, for example, a little bit for you and helped your career, you're a scumbag, you're an enabler, and you don't genuinely believe in what you're talking about. A little example I have here is I received a screenshot from Alice, which was one of Alice's friends in contact with a content creator called Dankyjabo. Basically, Dankyjabo got a DM from someone who Alice knows, Alice being ImAllexx's ex-girlfriend, saying, "Is there a reason you still follow and work for an abusive piece of shit?" To which Jesse, Dankyjabo, replied and said, "I'm so sorry, mate. I'll unfollow the annoying orange right now."
Because one of Alice's friends decided to reach out to him and ask why, if it was an accident, if he meant to unfollow him, or if he just didn't know what was going on.
I do not understand why my ex-girlfriend and her apparent friends have been messaging people who still follow me 8 months after I've stopped posting entirely and over a year since we have broken up. Alice to this day is trying to interfere with my personal life by attempting to isolate me, going as far as harassing people because she believes that we know each other. Alice went after my friends and is now scouting my social media and encouraging YouTubers to expose people based on whether they follow my inactive social media accounts. Alice took the DM that she claimed a friend had sent her from Dankyjabo and sent it to Cataclysm, who then proceeded to make various posts and YouTube videos claiming that Dankyjabo was a misogynist, an abuse apologist, and even hearted a comment claiming that he could be a future sexual assaulter.
From the moment I ignored her offer to join call with her and her friends, she had begun randomly messaging me unwarranted, hateful messages whenever she felt like it. Not only that, but she was also hearting comments on her YouTube channel that accused me of being a potential sexual assaulter. The fact that either of you act as though you were trying to be fair at any point, that you were trying to be respectful at any point, is honestly laughable.
Cataclysm posted that she wanted to expose someone so bad This was a tweet made before Cataclysm had uploaded any video or live stream about Dankyjabo, who she then went on to expose by revealing this DM that Alice had sent her, claiming that this was proof that we knew each other. Alice responded to the tweet that Cataclysm made, saying that she would do it for her, when Cataclysm claimed that she couldn't expose Dankyjabo for legal reasons. Cataclysm then made tweets about Dankyjabo that were negative, that Alice retweeted and shared. These tweets can no longer be found, as Cataclysm has deleted her Twitter account after Dankyjabo's response video. Alice has not only continued to harass me for the last year, but has now gone after my former editor and tried to cancel him because she created a conspiracy that he is a friend of mine and that we work with each other. This has led to him being slandered and harassed online by various content creators who have now apologized because of this lie that she had started. Other YouTubers have also claimed that because our thumbnails were similar, we must be friends.
One of the only pieces of evidence that they show are that our thumbnails are similar.
You can even tell the blatant mentoring through the exact same thumbnail design. They use the exact same thumbnail design. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just more proof that he mentored him or taught him his ways.
This is also a point made by both Cataclysm and an actual old friend of Alex and Jake Baz, who was previously featured on his channel before.
When Alex stopped posting because of everything that happened, Jesse then started posting very much in the style of Alex, with Alex's thumbnails, etc, etc.
Coincidentally, your thumbnails seems to be only since he's quit. Your thumbnails have started getting a lot more like Alex's, which is weird. Why would you only just start doing that now, coincidentally, when he stops uploading?
However, the great irony of this point is that the very thumbnails on the streams that my thumbnails are being criticized on are the exact thumbnail style that somehow prove that Alex is mentoring me.
These YouTubers accused Dankyjabo of being mentored by me based on his style of thumbnails. But Jake Baz and Cataclysm have also taken my thumbnail style and used it in the very videos where they attempt to cancel him, after making multiple videos calling me an abuser.
And not only that, but Cataclysm still continues to use the very thumbnails that she's criticizing me for to this day. By that logic, is she also being mentored by Alex? No. Obviously not, because it's just a YouTube thumbnail. And like I said, I haven't spoken to Alex since my last payment from him. He has nothing to do with my channel.
To take my thumbnail style after calling me an abuser, whilst attacking another content creator for doing the same, is ridiculous and unfair, especially when the goal was to try and ruin somebody's YouTube career.
You would not have made this many baseless accusations against me that do not accurately represent the conversations that took place between us. You wouldn't excitedly be tweeting about how much you wanted to expose me, and you wouldn't be saying shit like this on stream.
And it makes me feel like sad. Like I just want to like log into his channel and delete it. Like, it needs to be deleted.
Another ridiculous piece of evidence that they use is that I still follow ImAllexx's Instagram account.
Also, what some people have noticed, which is what Katie alluded to in a video as well, is that Dankyjabo is still following Alex. So, this is true. If I had a look earlier before the stream. So, Dankyjabo is following Alex and he's still followed by Alex as well. So they're still around each other. That's what I do know.
Apparently, and still now, Jesse followed and still follows ImAllexx.
Now, Dankyjabo was still following Alex.
If our thumbnails being the same and someone following me means that I am mentoring them, then why until a few weeks ago did Cataclysm still follow me on TikTok and use my thumbnail style? This does not mean that we are friends, or that I am mentoring Cataclysm. I find it ridiculous that this has been used to prove that I am friends with people, when the same people saying this are doing the exact same. Cataclysm also went on to do a live stream where she made claims about me that are untrue.
Alex said stuff about me and I didn't even know him. Like, Alex was like cocky as shit because like I followed Alex for quite a long time and Alex made a comment being like, oh, I should probably follow her back at some point, and he made some weird comment like as if like, I don't know, it was just weird. It was like kind of patronizing.
I had followed Katie on Twitter and we had interacted once, and she wished me a happy birthday. I did not follow Katie back on Instagram because Alice had accused me of getting close with Katie, even though we had never called or spoken outside of this DM. I sent this to Alice to show that we only ever had one interaction, to prove that I was not involved with Cataclysm in any way. These messages were 2 months after we had broken up, as Alice was still monitoring my social media activity and friendship circle, and trying to prevent me from being friends with anyone, something that she is still doing to this day. I would like to apologise to Dankyjabo. My actions are not something that he is responsible for, and I apologise that I did not respond sooner. For the last year, I have been in and out of hospital, and this greatly delayed my response, and I was unable to make a video at this time, and that is why it is taking me so long to address this. In this time, Alice has posted many things about me that are untrue, and has posted this TikTok that people believed is in reference to me.
Don't ask me about my ex, let's just pretend that nigga died. Ain't no pressure by no nigga, tell his ass to fall in.
Alice says that she had done everything she could and pressed charges on me. This never happened, and once again is another lie. Since Alice posted a document, 2 of my ex-girlfriends made posts about me. My ex-girlfriend Jess, who I dated in 2019, wrote a statement that she had then deleted before she reached out to me to talk privately. Jess told me that Alice had contacted her and had lied about a police investigation and asked her to make a statement to back hers. Me and Jess have spoken to each other many times since, and we have resolved this, and I greatly appreciate that she reached out to me. KingAni, a YouTuber who I dated in 2018, has also posted a statement about me online. There is no evidence to support anything that has been written in this statement, and that's because what was written is completely untrue. At no point during our relationship did I at any point ever get physical. To write a statement that contains no screenshots, texts, or evidence to support these false claims shows them for what they are: baseless and untrue. Me and Anna continued to stay in contact with each other after the breakup. We had met up at multiple gaming conventions in England and Los Angeles, and all of these messages were over a year after we had broken up, as we hadn't had any form of falling out, and we had maintained a friendship after our relationship had ended. Anna wrote in her document that it was the most toxic relationship she had ever been in, and that she was lucky to get out of it when she did. But we had stayed in contact for an entire year after, and Anna had even come round to my flat in London, where we had food and went out for dinner. A year after our breakup, I was invited to and took part in KingAni's charity livestream event because she had asked me to be a guest. I believed that we were on good terms after our breakup, and that there was never any issues brought up with me personally in the entire time that we knew each other, and this was the first time that I had heard of these completely false and baseless allegations that she has made against me. To see a statement that has retroactively been built on my abusive relationship with my ex-partner Alice deeply upsets me. Anna has also used this as an opportunity to blame me for a situation we were involved in with another YouTuber called Slazzo. The messages between us at the time show that Anna wrote the statement on Slazzo with his ex-girlfriend Che, and that I ignored this message at the time that she had sent it to me. I was aware of the situation, but I had no involvement in writing anything, and Anna had even messaged me acknowledging that I didn't want to be involved, which is why I had not replied to her messages where she had tried to involve me. To write that everyone got the blame for something that I had apparently made up, when in reality, as shown here, Anna was the person who had written the statement, is ridiculous and a blatant lie. I should never have shared what Anna and Che had written, and I apologised privately to Slazzo when it took place at the time. I wish no ill will to any of my previous partners, and I understand that claiming my innocence in these relationships will be difficult, but I cannot accept these false allegations that have been made against me. Miaxmon, an influencer and content creator who was under the same management as me, posted a statement which is a complete lie. Mia claims that she spoke to my management and that they dropped me in June 2023 because she had made them aware of the rumours surrounding me and my relationship with Alice. Mia says that she had put pressure on my management to drop me due to these rumours, and that they did after she had asked. I was never kicked from my management. I left my management in January 2024 on my own accord, as shown in these messages. Mia says that I was kicked from management in June 2023, but I had still been working with them and doing brand deals and premieres for the entirety of that year, as shown by this message from my management in July, and these messages about the Star Wars premiere I attended in August, 2 months after Mia claims that they had dropped me. I asked to leave my management in January 2024, which is 7 months after Mia claims she got me kicked from my management. I was never dropped or had any conversations about my relationship with my management at any point. What Mia has posted is a complete lie. I would like to make it incredibly clear that no one at any point ever reached out to me as a friend or colleague and asked me about my relationship until I never reached out to me, which I have discussed in this video, and that was months after we had broken up. At no point did anyone ask for my side or story. Nobody at all was aware of any of the information that I've shared in this video except for Alice, because nobody at any point ever asked. The one instance when my friends reached out to me, they leaked everything to my abuser. I did not expect people to understand my situation, and I was terrified to the point to which it had gotten to. I did not think there was anyone I could speak to, and I was terrified about what would happen if I did, as Alice had full access to my phone for the entire time we were together, while she unfollowed and isolated me from my friends, and because of this I stayed in a relationship which continued to get worse. Alice has excused her behaviour as reactive abuse and has shown text messages where she has blurred out that she had been starting these fights. I had apologised to her after I had reacted to the physical violence, gaslighting and manipulation that she would put me through, as I was deeply upset over how I had reacted, as I felt I was losing control the longer I stayed in our relationship. Alice wrote in her document that I felt no remorse or guilt. I deeply regretted the way I had been acting, and I apologised constantly to Alice for how I had behaved. Our relationship was affecting me so greatly that I got progressively more sick the longer we stayed together. To say that things just flew past and I acted like nothing ever happened is completely untrue when it was having such a serious and severe effect on me. Alice constantly tried to push me to physical violence, which I refused to do, as she had told me to hit her on the 5th of October in an argument, and Alice said that I should hit her as a form of payback. Alice was trying to get me to react physically so she could use it to post online, and would constantly emotionally and physically abuse me until I would break so that she could screenshot my text messages or record me. This non-stop harassment has continued to this day, as Alice has gone after other people who she believes are my friends in an attempt to isolate me. I have not spoken to Alice or posted on my social media in nearly a year, but Alice has still been trying to control my life. Alice claimed in her document that I had projected all of my issues onto her, but has proceeded to diagnose me as a narcissist multiple times in this document, and also texted me saying that I had narcissistic personality disorder after I had reacted to Alice's abuse. Alice believed that I was on the spectrum and would call me autistic and bullied me when I tried to discuss the abuse in our relationship. The more our relationship progressed, the more I began to react emotionally to Alice's ongoing abuse, as she would shut me down, stonewall me, and insult me. These arguments would go on for hours, and I had reached my breaking point when trying to discuss the issues that I had had. Alice would continually call me autistic, so I changed the way that I would try to discuss stuff in our conversation and arguments, just so I could get a response. Alice has then gone on to clip me during my severe mental breakdowns and has screenshotted text messages that we had in real time. This entire situation was premeditated from Alice, as she had been screenshotting me throughout these breakdowns in real time, as shown by the fact that I am still typing and the dates in the messages that she has shown. Alice has proceeded to crop out that she had nicknamed me racial slurs, as Alice freely used this language throughout our relationship, but has hidden this and altered her behaviour when she was knowingly recording me and building her document so that she could paint me as crazy and psychotic and push the entire blame of this onto me. I had complained about this at the beginning of our relationship and texted Alice about the fact that her and her friends use this language freely. Alice would tell me to ignore this and told me that I was stupid for complaining about it and that I cared too much about how people would perceive me online. Alice has lied that I normalised this language on Twitter, despite it being her who actively bragged about it and brought it into our relationship. I am not claiming that I am innocent in this relationship. I retaliated with vile language and threats that have been normalised, and this is disgusting and unacceptable. Alice wrote in her document that this is what happens when a narcissist meets an empath. They feed off it. But Alice has posted multiple videos about me online, a document that is filled with lies, and has also continued to harass me and others in an attempt to isolate me for the last year. I hope by not responding or reacting that Alice would move on like she had claimed she would in her document. But Alice has continued to post about me and has harassed others in an attempt to get to me. Alice said that these posts that she had made about me were a cry for help and not attention in her document. But Alice asked me to make a public apology to stop her ongoing harassment of me. It has been over a year since we broke up, and Alice has continued to lie about me to this day in her posts online and to other YouTubers who then posted those lies about me in videos that now have millions of views. Alice wrote in her document that after I ended the relationship he tried to manipulate me, telling me we just need time and that he will change, and begged me to give him a chance to change and make things better. This went on for months. He kept doing this and then getting angry when I didn't give back the same energy. Alice at no point has mentioned that she was harassing me and blackmailing me privately, and that she had been asking me to fix our relationship with letters, while she invited herself over and told me to make her dinner. This was going on all whilst Alice was using traumatic experiences that I had shared with her privately to torment me and drive me to a mental breakdown intentionally after I'd started to break away from our abusive relationship, and that during all of this, she had been planning to expose me through a document that she had told my ex-girlfriend Jess about. Alice wrote, "I've had threats of story manipulation from ImAllexx, so I want to clear all of these up before he gets the chance to try and victimize himself and disregard everything he's ever done to me." But Alice has lied and manipulated these stories constantly in her document to portray a narrative which is not true. Before I end this video, I would like to apologize to anyone who I upset or offended in the videos and text messages that Alice shared. I wish no ill will on anyone who has posted about me or shared these stories online. I am ashamed that many others were dragged into this unintentionally because of my actions. To the many people who have reached out publicly and privately, I greatly appreciate the kindness and generosity many of you have shown at a time where I have not deserved it, and I hope that I can repay you by being a better person. Thank you for listening to what I had to say.